dust stormed through the desert as over 600 chariots thundered forward, wheels grinding against stone and sand. The roar of hooves beat like war drums across the barren plains. At the center of the storm rode Pharaoh himself, his face carved in stone-like fury, eyes blazing with vengeance. His soldiers, fierce and battle-hardened, followed close behind. The air was heavy, almost choking, thick with the metallic scent of iron, sweat, and seething hatred. Pharaoh's grip tightened around his golden scepter, which he raised high above his head, a symbol of his absolute authority. Its tip shimmered beneath the desert sun like a blade thirsting for blood. "I am a god," Pharaoh bellowed, his voice echoing like thunder over the plains. "I am the Lord of the night, the living image of Ra." He was ready to strike down the first Hebrew he laid eyes on. The rage within him was not just royal, it was personal. He had been defied, humiliated, and now he would reclaim his glory with the blood of slaves. But just as his chariot neared the fleeing Israelites, the heavens answered. A shriek split the sky, and in an instant, a blinding pillar of fire descended from above, crashing down between Pharaoh's army and their prey. It blazed with divine fury, a celestial inferno that ignited the ground itself. The fire writhed and twisted like a living thing, hotter than anything the soldiers had ever felt, its light whiter than lightning. The horses reared in terror, neighing wildly, their eyes rolling with primal fear. Chariots overturned, men screamed, shields clattered to the ground. Even the most fearless warriors, battle-scarred and proud, fell to their knees, eyes wide, hearts frozen. They had never seen power like this. Before them stood not just fire, but a warning. The God of the Hebrews had drawn a line in the sand. The soldiers dropped to their knees, shielding their faces from the unbearable blaze. The heat licked at their skin, scorching their brows and turning sweat into steam. Some sobbed. Others prayed to gods they weren't even sure existed anymore. But amidst the chaos and light, one man did not flinch. Pharaoh. He sat tall in his chariot, face contorted with unrelenting fury. The fire before him mirrored the fire within him. His rage burned just as fiercely as the heavenly flames that now barred his path. His knuckles whitened on the reins, and every breath came with the weight of defiance. Violent anger oozed from him like sweat from stone. His voice, when he finally spoke, trembled with wrath and desperation. "This god dares to challenge me," he hissed, his voice low but venomous. "After the blood, the frogs, the darkness, after the death of my own son, still I will not kneel." He looked past the fire toward the horizon where the Israelites were gathered. "If I cannot drag them back in chains," he growled, "then I will slaughter them. Their blood shall consecrate my reign. They will learn I am Pharaoh. Their cries will feed the winds. Their corpses will whisper my name to the sands for eternity." But as he spoke, the scene shifted to the people he sought to destroy. The children of Israel stood at the edge of the sea. Men, women, and children pressed against the shore. The Red Sea stretched before them like a great beast, its dark waves crashing violently, frothing and roaring as if it too had risen in defiance. The sky above was stone gray, the wind howling like a chorus of ancient spirits. The water churned, wild, untamed, and merciless, a chaotic abyss with no path forward. Behind them, they could see Pharaoh's firelit army through the haze, trapped for now, but looming like a nightmare that refused to fade. And between death by sword or death by sea, there seemed to be no way out. Death loomed on both sides. Terror carved deep lines into the faces of the Israelites. Their eyes were wide with dread, their bodies frozen in place. Mothers clutched their children tighter. Fathers gripped staffs and hands, torn between shielding their families and bracing for slaughter. Panic pulsed through the crowd like a silent scream. Behind them, the unmistakable thunder of hooves drew closer, Pharaoh's fury growing louder with each heartbeat, a storm of vengeance racing toward them. The fire had slowed him, but not stopped him. Behind them, the unmistakable thunder of hooves drew closer, Pharaoh's fury growing louder with each heartbeat, a storm of vengeance racing toward them. The fire had slowed him, but not stopped him. A mighty eastern wind began to rise, curling through the canyon walls like a whisper growing into a roar. It caught the edge of the sea, causing the waters to shudder. Waves danced and crashed, not in chaos now, but in anticipation. It was not just wind, it was the breath of God, the Ruach, divine and ancient, the very spirit that hovered over the face of the deep at the dawn of creation, was here again. It moved with purpose. It stirred with power. Moses stood near the edge, his eyes fixed on the churning void. The sea, dark and wild, looked exactly as it had at the beginning of all things, formless, untamed, unknowable. But Moses felt it, the presence. It wrapped around him like a great stillness. Time seemed to pause. The world hushed. The cries of the people faded. Even the approaching army seemed to disappear into silence. Moses stood alone in that moment, as if suspended between heaven and earth, between terror and trust. The Spirit of God was near, and he was about to speak. The cries of the crowd faded into a distant echo. For Moses, the world was still. The chaos around him, screaming voices, roaring seas, pounding hooves, melted into silence. He stood at the edge of the impossible, gripping his staff with trembling hands. His brow was furrowed, not in fear, but in righteous resolve. He closed his eyes, and then he heard it, not with ears, but with his spirit. The voice of the Almighty thundered in his soul, calm and absolute. Why do you cry to me? Tell the children of Israel to move forward. Stretch out your hand over the sea and behold my wonders. The words reverberated like the sound of creation itself. I will triumph over Pharaoh and his armies. My glory will blaze across the earth, and all nations will know I am the Lord. A sacred fire ignited in Moses' heart. The fear was gone. Doubt dissolved in the light of divine purpose. His eyes snapped open. He stepped forward and planted his foot firmly on the rock beneath him. The winds howled louder, as if all of heaven waited on his next move. With a steady hand, he raised his staff high above the sea, stretching it out over the raging waters. The moment hung, eternal. Heaven had spoken. Now the earth would answer. Moses lifted his staff, and in that instant, the breath of God surged from behind his chosen people. A mighty, unstoppable wind, unlike anything the earth had ever known. It roared like 1,000 storms, sweeping forward with divine intent. The Spirit of the Lord, the same breath that gave life to Adam, now moved to make a path where none existed. With a sound like thunder tearing through stone, the wind struck the sea. The waters trembled, and then they obeyed. Before the eyes of the Israelites, the sea split in two, not trickling, not receding, but tearing open like a scroll unraveled by a sovereign hand. The deep was divided, and walls of water surged upward on either side, towering, trembling, but held in place by invisible strength. A pathway appeared. A dry and solid ground stretched like a bridge between two walls of chaos. The people gasped and stumbled backward in awe. Children pointed. Elders fell to their knees. A collective breath was held as the impossible unfolded before them. The Red Sea, once an abyss of death, had surrendered to the will of God. And the Lord had made a way where there was none. Thanks for watching. If you love the wonders of God, do like and follow this channel for more Bible stories.